Hello and welcome to Business Finishing School. Let your business brain finish what your entrepreneurial heart started. Our catalyzing statement is a successful entrepreneur inside of every business. Enjoy this module.
Welcome to Module 34, Philosophy and Business Part 2. And I love talking philosophy with Patrick. We do a lot of that off audio and off camera and off recording. And we do a lot of that as we're planning these modules out. So I'm going to hand this off to Patrick to talk about business ethics.
So this is a term that's kind of used very often. As a matter of fact, humorously, some people would look at like legal ethics or business ethics. They say is an oxymoron, kind of like jumbo shrimp or postal service.
Or happily married.
or family vacation. This one gets people in the South to cringe, country music. So this is business ethics. But the reality is that ethics is really at the heart of philosophy in the sense of the human experience. Because, if you reviewed last month, I briefly mentioned the 5 branches of philosophy, which are metaphysics is the first branch, which I'll review again, provides a human being with a view of reality. Basically, metaphysics is your view of the nature of reality or your view of the nature of the universe. It asks the question, where am I? The second branch is epistemology, which is the theory of knowledge. If metaphysics asks the question, where am I? Epistemology asks the question, how do I know? Basically, what are my rules of evidence? How do I know reality? What do I accept as evidence and what will I not accept as evidence? A very important branch, obviously. But then once you know where you are and how you know, the third branch of philosophy comes in, which is ethics. And ethics provides a human being with a code of values, and therefore will be a guide to your actions. Or, to put it in the business context, I would say this. Ethics provides a business with a code of values, and therefore will guide the actions of the business. So if metaphysics asks the question, where am I? And epistemology asks the question, how do I know? Ethics asks the question, so now what do I do? So from a business context, what does the business do? What actions does it take? And there's the converse of that is implied, which is what actions should it not take based on these system of values or these ethics. So we, way back, very beginning, Module 1, we talk about developing core values, values-based decision-making, the Doorman. All those things now apply here. So as you start to understand it, not just from a tactical standpoint, saying, well, we have to develop our business values, and we have to put them into place, which is all the right stuff to do. Now you're leaning towards mastery, saying, I have a larger view, a higher level view of what the implications of values-based decision-making is. What you know now, based on what I just said, is that values is a philosophical thing. It comes from the third branch of philosophy, which is ethics, and that third branch of philosophy is built on the foundation of the first 2 branches. So before you can have values, you have to have a view of reality. If eating is a value, why would you say eating healthy food is a value? Because you have a foundational point of view that says that the body requires fuel, and the quality of this fuel is going to have an impact on my life, and that one of the aspects or attributes of life is the necessity of fuel or food. Therefore, you make an ethical decision to fuel your body with the appropriate food because it aligns with the value you have based on your view of the world. Obviously, more of an obvious and simplistic point of view, but the same thing would be true of a business. In other words, we'd have to start with the metaphysical question, what's the purpose of business in general? Not your business, but why should businesses exist? And then the next question is, okay, then how do I know this? And based on the answer to those questions, now you say, okay, so what kind of a business should I have? What kind of a business should I bring into the world? What values should that business hold so that it manifests into the world the value that I want to create? And then here's where the all-important thing happens, where the rubber meets the road. And hopefully I'm going to almost talk a little quieter to get you to listen a little harder right now for effect. This is where you start to determine profitability, the nature of profit, the virtue of money exchange, how all those things work. If you have an ethical point of view personally and grew up learning things like this from your mother's, father's, teachers, preachers, I'll give you some, like, rich people are thieves. The only way to get ahead is by taking advantage of other people, etc. That it's more virtuous to sacrifice and to not do things for money than it is to do things for money. There's all these notions that our mothers, fathers, teachers, preachers taught us that are philosophical in nature, that get rooted into your subconscious. And now here you are, and you're going into the world and you're saying, I'm going to create a business. And one of the things that is an absolute premise of mine is that a business must do what? It must profit. No profit, no business. Well, in order for you to get whole on this issue of profit and to get excited about it and stimulated by it, is that you have to have a philosophical context for what that means. Most people, unfortunately, silently, unconsciously hold a philosophy that is sort of anti-profit. Where, what are we taught? That big businesses, all they want to do is profit. How many times have you heard, oh, well, they're just after profit. They're just after making money. As if that's a bad thing. So let's examine some of our ethics and some of our premises surrounding money and profit, because I can tell you from direct experience, from many, many businesses of many varieties, that the owner, the leader, the driver of that business, if they have contradictions in their philosophical premises relative to money and profit, then the success of the business is completely compromised because they never feel good about it. And they try to compensate for it by doing actions of charity and everything else. Not that charity is bad, it's a good thing. But they literally feel guilty when the business is making profit, because somehow people think that life is a zero-sum game. So here's the first metaphysical view that I have to get you to establish. Is life a zero-sum game, or is it something else? What does zero-sum mean? What that means is that if you make $1, someone else must lose $1. That there's only a limited amount of values in the world, and the consequence is that when somebody gains $1, it costs somebody else $1, and it all sums out to zero. That's the way people think. There's one pie, and every time you slice it, everybody else's slice gets smaller. Nothing is further from the truth. Let's examine reality. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that value is created. So let me give you a quick example. I'm going to ask you to go into the theater of your mind right now. And we have to use our imagination because we're going through audio here. I want to imagine that right now I hold up a dollar bill. And I'm in front of a room full of people and I say, okay, I've got $1. Who wants to sell me something for $1? And somebody gives me a pen. Okay, I got the pen, now they have the $1. Who wants to sell that person something for $1? And what they do is that person sells them a cup, coffee cup. And then the $1 circulates for all these little items around the room. Now I say in front of the room, I am willing to sell 2 hours of consultation time for $1 that is guaranteed to transform your business and increase your profitability. Anybody want to buy it? So now that person gives me the $1 for those 2 hours of time. I started the exercise, folks, with $1 in my hand. Now, a few minutes later, I'm holding $1 and a pen. What happened? How do I have more than what I started with? Did I hurt somebody else? Did I have to take it from somebody else? Did I have to steal from somebody else? No. What I did is through my mind, my intelligence, my actions, I created value and I acquired more value in exchange for that. Value is creation, not stagnation. There's not just a pie that gets split up. There is new generation of values in the world that improves the quality of people's lives. Let me put this another way to help really straighten this out. Imagine that I were to give you 1 billion with a B, $1 billion cash right now, and I put you on a deserted island with the $1 billion. What good is it? Money in and of itself has no inherent value. If you have $1 billion in cash, but you're alone on an island, the money does you no good. The second you hit that beach, you're not going to sit there and count your money. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go start finding some food. You're going to have to start building some shelter. You're going to have to start doing things, meaning make an effort to create the values in your life so that you can sustain your life, that you can improve the quality of your life. And the money you're going to leave on the beach, maybe you'll use it for kindling for a fire or something, but certainly it's not going to do you any good in and of itself. Money is only of value if there's other values that have been created to exchange it for. However, it's important to understand that it's money that makes civilization possible because it increases the efficiency of exchange. So the ultimate core fundamental quanta of value is human effort. If I raise chickens and somebody else makes shoes and somebody else builds houses, if we want to barter our services, I'd say, okay, hey, I need a new pair of shoes. How many chickens you want for the shoes since I raise chickens? Oh, I want 5 chickens. Okay, here's 5 chickens. I'll take the shoes. Now I need a new house. I go to the person who builds a house, say, how many chickens you want for a house? What does the guy say? I don't want that many chickens. Here's a list of all the things I want. Go trade a bunch of chickens for it and then come back with those things and I'll build you a house. So what did money do? Money introduced into the system a means of exchange that allows people to specialize in what they're good at and what they're passionate about. So now I can trade these coins all day long for my chickens and accumulate enough coins to go build a house or anything else as long as I do it well and people want to freely exchange with me. So when there are values in the world, money is a means of exchange. It's a representation of human energy. It's a representation of human productivity. It does make civilization possible, but when you start looking at money as the root of all evil, which is how a lot of people are, money is the root of all evil, money corrupts people. No, what money does is it makes civilization possible. Here is the root of all evil, people who try to get money without creating value to exchange for it. That is the root of all evil.
One of the things I want to point out, Patrick, about what you're talking about, which is very powerful, and I encourage you to listen to these modules over and over. One of the comments we got in year 1 and year 2 was, can you make the program portable? We wanted to make sure that year 1 and year 2 were more classroom style where you're watching. However, year 3 and year 4, we want it to be portable. Put it on your MP3 player, listen to it in your car, etc. When you start thinking about your values and how they manifest, especially as it relates to money, you start seeing interesting things. And I want to talk about a few of those things to hammer this home and then pass it back to Patrick. I believe because of what we learned as children, we manifest money issues over time. An example of that is, I know a lot of people that are extremely successful in business and they take very large incomes and they blow the money. They give to charity, they overextend themselves, they build big houses that they don't need, they spend the money on cars and vacations. In other words, underneath all of it is a philosophy that's based on something like, I don't deserve to be rich. And if you don't deserve to be rich, or that's at least what's underpinning your philosophy, you're not going to have money. At least it's not going to stick to you. Another way it shows up is in the last 2 years, I had a very close friend whose grandfather passed away. He was extremely wealthy. And they came from a very tight family. And after he died, you wouldn't believe what happened with this family. The family was completely torn apart by this unbelievable urge, which was carried out by lawyers representing each family member, to sue each other. They were fighting over the money. They clearly had a philosophy around there's one limited pie, and if I take $1 from somebody else, they're not going to get $1. So there was a lot of fighting and all kinds of things. They didn't have the philosophy that, wait a minute, he's now dead, let's carry on his legacy, let's build our family fortune. It was all about, money is limited, let me see what I can get. And it absolutely, positively destroyed the family. Another manifestation of this in business, not directly related to money, but related to a philosophical view of creating value, is I see this often repeated in many businesses where employees and ownership look at customers as a complete and total pain in the ass. I have seen businesses where, here's this customer coming in again, and he always complains. What they're not realizing is those customers that come to your business and give you money are those same people that are creating wealth for you. They're paying your salary, they're paying your profit, they're paying your overhead. Those customers are your source of capital. And so many businesses, I would say more than half of businesses, look at customers as pains in the butt or annoyances. When a customer complains, that is a valuable piece of data. You can go back to the module where we talked about vendor-customer communication. So I am expressing various points of view to have you see how in the real world what Patrick's talking about as it relates to money and ethics and philosophy, how it shows up in the real world. And I want to pass it back to you, Patrick.
So ultimately, there's got to be some clarity and some philosophical context for what money represents, what profit represents, and incidentally, it's got to be aligned in your team also. Imagine, if you've got somebody who's a socialist, that's a part of your management team or your executive team, where they feel like, it's wrong for companies to profit, accumulate wealth, get a strong balance sheet, etc. Because there's so many people out there that struggle, and their philosophical point of view is that money should be redistributed as compared to it should be migrated to the people who provide the most value. See, I have a metaphysical view that I think is pretty simple, but also it's also I think the highest form of justice. I believe metaphysically, my view of reality is that the people who do the most amount of good should get the most reward. It's just that simple. And money is the most noble medium that you can ever encounter. In other words, money doesn't allow contradictions. If you have contradictions in your business, if you don't provide value, if a culture or society, if they have contradictions where they think that they can redistribute wealth and that that's okay to do to people and put in the world, etc., you will see over time massive destruction that is a part of that contradiction. When you look at what happened in the countries where there was communism, where there was fascism, where there was socialism, where they didn't respect money, where they punished production and rewarded non-production and made it the guiding philosophy or the ethics underneath the culture, and that they legislated it into reality, pretty clearly and pretty quickly you start to see, wow, there was massive destructions in those areas. If you look at communist China, what happened? It had to go away. It got to a situation where there was just too much misery surrounding communism. And now when they turn capitalism on and allow that the people who do the most good get the most reward and that they can keep those rewards to the extent that they allow, suddenly they become a superpower economically. You look at how the destruction of the Soviet Union without a shot being fired. Why? Because that mode of contradiction of the very nature of money and wealth and distribution could not sustain. And along the way, millions of lives, people murdered, quite frankly, to try to force the contradiction on them. And you look at how they couldn't have bread, the bread lines, toilet paper, etc., things that we would take for granted in a country that is different in its philosophy about money and production and wealth. You see that literally businesses that succeed don't take away from others. They lift all boats. When you look at Microsoft and how many millionaires were created, some billionaires, but many millionaires. I mean, people who were in at the early stages who had Microsoft stock to help get it going. Well, it created so much wealth in the world. And what do you think those people do? You think that people who have wealth just stick it in a mattress? No, look at what Rick just recommended, a module or two ago, is you keep it in your balance sheet. You strengthen the company. You build your battleship. You reinvest it in growing the company. Money that's in the world is utilized and leveraged into creating more and more value, more and more wealth, more and more businesses. But the challenge that entrepreneurs have, and I think it's one of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs have, is that their philosophy around money and wealth and abundance, etc., is that it's attached to guilt. The best way, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me carefully, the best way to help the poor is to not be one of them. You having extraordinary wealth doesn't make other people poor. It puts you in a position to help end poverty. It puts you in a position to help give jobs. It puts you in a position to help make the world a better place to live. So these two things aren't incongruent. Unfortunately, the socialist or the statist mindset is that it's unfair for people to accumulate great wealth, or companies become threatening when they have great wealth, when really quite the opposite is true. So what I need you to do as a part of the exercise for this particular module is I want you literally to reduce into writing, to write at least 2 to 3 paragraphs on this. What is your philosophy of money? So here it is. The question that goes on the sheet of paper or on the computer screen is, what is my philosophy of money? And start writing. Most people have an accumulated junk heap in their subconscious, to use Rand's term, about, as far as a philosophy is concerned regarding money. They've never explicitly put together and collected their thoughts. And as a result, they've got all these conflicting messages and emotions and attachments to money, wealth, abundance, profit, and all those things. I'll say it again. No profit, no business. No profit, no employees. No profit, no payroll. No profit, no customers. No profit, no anything. If we live in a world where people don't profit, what do you think that world looks like? It's Armageddon. Profit is good. Profit is necessary. Profit provides jobs. Profit provides values. So I would love for you, and this is a life changer, folks. This is a life changer. I would love for you to take the time to sit and write out draft 1 of your philosophy of money. And over time, you need to refine that to get to a point where you're so crystal clear on your philosophy of money and your point of view about it that now you get alignment rather than contradiction. You have congruency, because once you write that out, everything you do has to be congruent with what that philosophy is.
Once you're done writing this out, and you'll see this in the implementation guide, we want you to start having bullet points of beliefs that you have around money, new beliefs that will help craft decisions that you make in the future. Because here's where incongruency starts. Number one, we don't do what Patrick said, which is take the time to sit down and really think. I think we have a absolute catastrophic situation in the world because people stop thinking. They have mass media put thoughts into their head. So our whole life is about reacting to our cell phones and news that we watch, etc. I have to tell you, recently in the last week, I came back from the airport because my flight was delayed. I was put in a hotel and the TV was on when I walked in the hotel room. And I was in the bathroom getting ready, and I listened to 25 minutes of New York local news.
Wow.
And I don't watch news, as you know. I don't watch TV. I was shocked. They were like rapid fire, 30-second stories. Murder, rape, theft, murder, rape, theft, murder. Rape. And I'm like, wow. And do you know that recently I had a conversation with an acquaintance who said, I said, where do you get your learning from? And this guy said, well, I'm very committed to learning. I watch the news a lot.
That's toxic.
Exactly. So anyway, as we wrap up this module, we want you to obviously write out, just spill your thoughts out, think, stop reacting to and interacting with mass media and all the toys that and candy and blinky shiny that mass media provides us, and think about your personal philosophy. Then come up with some bullet points which will lead you to rules from which you can make decisions from. This goes all the way back to rules-based decision making. but you have to do the work. There is no shortcut. I was recently on a radio interview, and the guy on the other end said, you know, Rick, this program's kind of rare because you're actually requiring people to do work. Mm-hmm. If you're not somebody that will sit down and do the work, you're not going to get the damn result. This isn't about blinky shiny. This is about you doing work. So, Patrick, as always, it's fun to do these modules with you. This was a powerful one. I hope that it got you thinking in a way that you've never thought about before. Please invest the time with your spouse, with your staff, with your advisors, and get your philosophy nailed down so you can start having an incredible amount of congruence in your life. Thank you very much.
Let your business brain finish what your entrepreneurial heart started.